Hello, hello. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Austin Culp. I'm our Senior Director of Sales here at InflowCX. We've got a really exciting webinar today here on decoding IVR design, a guide to creating seamless call experiences, and give you some tips on creating really good customer call experiences through the IVR. This is going to be done by our wonderful QA and engineering manager, Chelsea Sheffield. Before we get into that, I do want to let you know we've got a couple upcoming webinars on transforming customer experience with AI. We've got a Inflow customer backed. They're going to come on and talk about, the partnership and innovation, what they've done in their organization, exciting stuff. As well as on May 30th, got a webinar around digital transformation in 2024, how to just elevate your contact center specific to AI. It's the hot topic right now, and a lot of people don't know what it means or what they want to do with it. And so going to be a guide for you on there. Before we jump into the meat of the presentation, if you will, on decoding the IVR design, I'm going to kick us off with a little bit, just super high level about InflowCX in case you're wondering who we are or haven't seen us in a while. Then I'll pass it over to Chelsea. Should have some time for QA at the end. Please feel free to throw those questions in the Zoom QA as we present, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can. Without further ado, InflowCX, if you're not familiar with us, we really help organizations evaluate, deploy, and optimize their customer engagement technology and strategy. So from our standpoint, we're not a product company. We're, vendor neutral. And we provide that approach to all of the CX technology evaluations or BPO and labor strategies, as well as operational effectiveness. We help customers make data-driven decisions utilizing ROI and TCO modeling. We also, are experts in not only what I call the core CCaaS, but as you'll see in a second, AI, CX, unified communications, WFO, BPOs, you name it. If it's customer experience or customer experience adjacent, we've got some expertise there. The other way that we're different than a traditional maybe consultancy company is that we also have the ability to provide high-touched implementation and managed services. And we've got right now a current CSAT of about 99.6. Got over 100 employees really just focused on the space. And we've done, tons and tons and tons of projects. We've got a really great group of customers. We really service customers of all shapes and sizes, right? Regardless of what vertical you're in and regardless of your size, because we're really deep in this contact center and CX world, we can apply a lot of the knowledge that we've gained in this industry and in this market to your business, most likely. And this is just a sampling of some of our top customers. However, guarantee we've probably got someone that looks and feels a little bit like you. When you think about some of the technology partners in this space, I talked about how we were truly technology agnostic. And this is a sampling of just some of our partners. Certainly not all of them are on here. From an end user perspective, if you will, the space is blowing up and there's more and more companies out there every day. I think probably 2, 3, 4, 5 a day. Every time I look, there's someone new that's popped up in the market that has some new take on their specific product. And I think the point of this slide here is that we are constantly doing research and partnering with the best organizations in the world. And you can lean on us as a guide or an expert in this space. If you have specific needs, maybe not around core contact center, but just self-service or AI, we've got relationships there and can help guide you. Without further ado, I will now pass it over to Chelsea to talk about decoding IVR design.
Thank you so much, Austin. Well, thank you everyone else as well for joining us today. So as Austin mentioned, my name is Chelsea Sheffield. I am the Quality Assurance and Engineering Manager for the InflowCX Service Delivery team. Prior to this position, I was the lead implementation engineer for our team and helped handle internal technical escalations for all of our engineers. So our team works extensively with clients to build call flows on a number of platforms. This may be basic migration of existing call flows from one platform to another, or complex design work with decision makers to build a new IVR flow from scratch. So kind of no matter the level of work that's being done, there's a couple key things that clients can keep in mind that are going to ensure the best experience for callers, for the client team, for everybody involved on whatever new platform we're moving to. So where do we start? Let's talk about some questions that a team can ask themselves to help define what needs to be built. This will also help identify who needs to be involved from the business side to help provide information and make decisions. So how many flows do we need? What is a call flow? Every single number that comes into your phone system is going to route somewhere. It might go directly to a user, it might go to a group, it might go to a phone tree that asks a caller qualifying information in order to route them appropriately. Call flow is needed for if we're making any sort of routing decision before a call gets to its final destination, be that a queue or an agent. This might be a menu that has options that a caller can choose to get to different departments based on what they're calling for. It could be a complex menu that pulls in information from another system and makes routing decisions based on that. It might be the caller's phone number. It might be the number that was dialed. Each unique use case or structure for a phone tree menu is generally going to be considered a separate call flow. The business may have different departments with different hours of business, and they want to keep those all separate, even though the phone trees might be similar just for management purposes. Once we have a general number of flows determined, it's helpful to know what is the primary objective of each flow. Does this help uh, the caller do one thing or another? This is going to define our business requirements for a flow. So what purpose does our flow serve? What type of caller is reaching this flow? What's our caller demographic? This is going to be really useful for determining what announcements we play and in what order we play them. And is also incredibly relevant for making decisions on if we're using AI-driven voice menus in order to get a caller through a more conversational experience. Is the menu meant to provide some sort of service? Is it doing authentication? Is it doing account lookup before reaching an agent? Are we trying to get callers to an agent as quickly as possible? Or are we having callers self-serve inside of the phone tree before they get to an agent? Are we trying to avoid agents altogether? Do we want to replicate what we have today, or do we want to redesign? So lots of times we're asked to just directly lift and shift from old platform to new platform. But really, no matter what system you're coming from or moving to, there's almost never an exact one-to-one translation for every single part of a flow. It's just something to keep in mind. If your current state call flow is the desired outcome, is there existing documentation of that flow that we can use as a starting point? Redesigning of an existing call flow for cleanup and consolidation purposes is really recommended during the whole implementation process with our team. We know that things change and go through many revisions over years. Band-aids are applied. Band-aids are very seldomly ripped off. If you're moving from an older phone system to a newer cloud-based contact center solution, you might have new optimization options available to you that weren't there before on the old platform. Does your flow need to integrate with an outside system to serve its purpose? Most modern contact center solutions offer the ability to pull or push information to and from another platform. This could be a Salesforce, this could be a Zendesk. This can help streamline experience for callers, for agents, get agents extra information about that caller before the caller gets there, give the caller information before they even get to an agent, as well as provide valuable reporting information for the business's team. And then how do we want calls delivered to our agent? So this is where your terminology may vary based on platform. Every single contact center wants to be its own special, unique flower. They want to call things something different. But most contact centers offer some sort of ACD routing option to get calls to the next available agent. They also probably offer some sort of more basic ring group that is going to simultaneously ring agents or users. Platform might also have some sort of skill-based routing or other advanced feature that determines, this agent is more ideal for this call versus another agent. Since the context can vary, the real best question to ask is, do we want calls to be offered to the next person in some sort of call rotation, or do we want that call to be offered to as many agents as possible? And the answer to those questions really heavily affects how reporting is done in a system. So all things we want to keep in mind as we're going through the initial design, really what is our end goal for reporting and experience as well. So who needs to be involved in call flow decisions? Call flow is absolutely a team effort. It's a business team effort. It's an inflow team effort. And that team may look different for every single business. It's typically going to include a primary decision maker. This is going to be the person who gives final approval of call flow documentation as it's created during the discovery process. They're going to be the primary contact point for questions about business requirements that are leading to the design of the flow. Um, we're going to have a technical resource. This might be an internal person, an external person, or both, depending on the flow that's in question. Technical resource would be the person for IT-related questions, access and permission-based questions, and is usually the one that has technical knowledge of the current state phone system. And then we're usually going to have some sort of department operation type resource. This is going to be a supervisor or a manager. And it might be a number of people who take on this role. This resource is really going to be familiar with the reporting needs for the team that is behind the call center, and then also the agent experience requirements. Now, all of those roles might be the same person. It depends on the size of the company and what it is that you're doing, or it might be multiple people who are embodying each of those. It's also a really good idea early on to identify who's going to be involved in testing of a new flow or a new platform's behavior. We highly suggest that we pick out at least one person we think can act as our agent, the end point of any call flow. Somebody who's going to act as the supervisor or manager to kind of monitor the queues and review reports during test calls to determine if there's any data gaps, and then some sort of technical resource. So we're going to recommend that at least one resource from the business's technical team be involved in testing or any troubleshooting to familiarize themselves with the new platform and any new flows that are being built. If you don't have that resource, at least someone who can help fill out any future trouble tickets for the phone system, just to have an idea what's in there. So now we've got an idea of what we're trying to accomplish and who might be involved. So let's dig into what to expect during an implementation with the service delivery team or any team. There's going to be standard phases of a phone system project that are all going to be led by our implementation team. So first of many is the discovery stage. So this is the stage for diving into the current state call flow or proposed call flow if we're doing some sort of redesign. I will say most clients do not come to us with current documentation. It is very, very common that has been lost to the ages, or it is way too old to be used. It's irrelevant at this point. So discovery time is used to review current documentation if we have it, or to start outlining and documenting what is needed if we're starting from scratch. Discovery can last a while if there are multiple flows or stakeholders that need to be involved to weigh in on what is being built. Coordination is our forte for the discovery process. And during that, we're going to round out any existing documentation or create brand new documentation as necessary with all the components required to build the flow, depending on the platform it's moving to. So there's really two kind of base pieces to a call flow. We're going to figure out your inbound flow components, and we're going to figure out your queue components. And the queue is your ACD queue, it's your group. whatever underlying mechanism we have to get calls to an agent. So how do we get calls to the flow? Your documentation is going to include any direct numbers that come to that flow. Could be local number, toll free, or an indication if a caller only gets here if they're transferred from another part of the phone system. What are your hours of operation? Do you observe holidays? Question is relevant if we want the phone system to behave differently during business hours, after business hours, or on holidays. Most platforms allow for multiple scheduling checks, so we can do kind of layered scheduling and also ad hoc closures. So on the fly, hey, we need to close for some sort of extenuating circumstance. If we're checking for business hours and holidays, what is the after hours behavior for the calls? What's the holiday behavior for the calls? Are we using a voicemail box for after hours messages? How do we want those messages delivered to users the next day? Is it a group? Is it a single user that's going to be handling that voicemail the next day? Are notifications required? All of the options for these things are going to vary by platform. So this is something we dive very heavily into during the discovery process. How are we handling audio in the flow? Do we have existing recorded audio files? Are we going to need to record new audio files? Do we need to think about who is going to be the new voice of the company? Many of the current systems also offer some sort of built-in text-to-speech capabilities. This could be really basic text-to-speech, kind of sounds like a robot, or more advanced AI-driven speech engines, though those do come with generally an additional cost. Are we offering language selection? This should be done early in the flow, generally after the company greeting, but before we hear any other menus, so we can play it in the appropriate language. Are we recording calls? Do we need any sort of recording disclaimer to meet legal requirements? Are we presenting callers with a menu? Are we using touch tone or DTMF? As an example, thank you for calling company ABC. Press 1 for sales, press 2 for support. Are we using natural language understanding, some side of a bot inside of the menu to allow for that conversational experience? Thank you for calling company ABC. How can I help you today? What does each of your menu options do? Menus can route to many other components inside of the system, a submenu, a group of agents, or an external number if we're transferring right back out of the phone system. What do we do if the caller doesn't do anything? Do we ask the caller the same question again? Do we repeat it 3 times? Do we disconnect? What do we do if the caller presses a wrong option? I only have options 1 through 4 on my menu, but they press 6. Do we have a default path if the caller doesn't press anything? Thank you for calling company ABC. Press 1 for sales or stay on the line for support, directing people automatically where they need to go. And are we offering any sort of directory if the caller knows the person they're trying to reach within the company? And capabilities for this are going to vary by platform. Then we get to queue. They've gone through the menu. They've figured out where they need to go. We've gotten them to a queue. We might only have so many agents available in that queue, though, so callers are queuing to wait for the next available agent. So what are they hearing? Are they hearing hold music? Are they hearing marketing material? Are they hearing a mix of both? Are we going to play periodic announcements to the caller? These can be used reminders of online options or self-service options. We can even tell them their place in line or the estimated wait time. What do we do if there are no agents in queue? This just happens periodically. It could be the weather, it could be an outage, but we want to plan for it ahead of time. What do we do if we have extenuating circumstances and calls cannot be answered by agents? And then what do we do if the caller got in that queue right before we closed? Maybe we close at 5 o'clock. I called at 4:59. Are we having the caller wait in queue and we know that the agents are going to handle any callers that are left over in that queue after closing hours? Or are we going to route those callers automatically back to the after hours behavior? So consultation. There are varying degrees of consultation. If it is determined that the business needs some sort of more in-depth discussion around industry standards, wants additional support while documenting current state, we do offer transformational consulting. This is a program that has been designed for customers that need an outside resource to assist and guide them through making business decisions for how callers interact with them. In general, this is going to happen before the implementation project starts because it results in a defined and documented set of business requirements. There's also mid-project consultation, and it really happens all throughout the discovery phase, all throughout the testing phase until we go live. Once we have a general idea of business needs for a flow, that's when we can start diving into platform-specific questions, best practice suggestions, and really ways to streamline the experience for everybody involved. This is also where potential optimization suggestions are going to come in, like where can we consolidate flows? Where can we consolidate queues? How can we use advanced configuration components to provide a more dynamic experience for our callers? After design, after consultation, we're going to do some sort of sign off. So we've made all of our business decisions. We have decided what we are going to build in the system. There's going to be some sort of sign-off phase. This is all the documentation has been finalized, and we want some sort of decision maker to give us the green light. Every team at the company has decided this is what we want. Make sure everyone is on the same page before we start doing any sort of work, so it doesn't need to get redone. But that being said, change is a normal part of the process. After that initial flow is created, the implementation team or the client team might determine that we need to make adjustments based on other requirements that have popped up, limitations that are coming to light as the build progresses, or shifts in understanding as the team gets to know the platform. The implementation team is going to help document changes that are needed to any flows as part of a change order or a change process. Any changes are going to get approved by a primary decision maker from the business. And then if that change affects the scope of work, such as adding in a brand new third-party API call for making routing decisions, that change order might come with a request for additional hours on the project. It might even impact the project timeline. All of these things are going to get discussed ad nauseum before we make any critical decisions that could affect the success of an implementation. Let's get to the fun part. So let's talk some do's and don'ts of IVR design. These are really helpful things you can keep in mind when designing a call flow. So do consolidate where it makes sense. You have a business that might have 4 different flows with menus that perform essentially the same function, have generally the same menu verbiage, and just transfer to a different queue after the menu. This is a really good place to build a single flow and use advanced flow logic based on, say, the number that was dialed to dynamically determine what queue we're going to transfer to or what greeting we're going to play. You also want to keep your menus short and logical. Endless greetings and prompts make callers irritable. It makes me irritable. I'm the person who designs it, and I still get irritated by very long menus. So keep your menus concise and in a logical order. You want your important options or information at the beginning of your IVR. Critical things, if it's the, say, medical industry, if this is an emergency, please hang up and dial 911. Don't listen till the end of 8 options to hear what to do in an emergency. Instead of listing out 9 different menu options in one menu, consider consolidating similar options into submenus. As an example, maybe the business has a sales department, an HR department, accounting, and then customer support, but they have multiple types of customer support. And those are handled by different teams. They've got hardware support, software support, and password resets. That main menu could just have a support option, press 3 for support, and a submenu that then lists out each type of support in order to get that caller exactly where they need to go. Primary driver behind that is if I'm a caller and I'm not really paying attention. 9 options is a lot of options to listen to. By the time I get to the last one, I've probably forgotten what the first one was. Plan ahead for contingencies. Emergencies are just that, an emergency. Maybe your team has a recurring team meeting, and we close down the call center for that, every third Wednesday. Or they need to shut down call queues for unexpected reasons. You want to ensure there's some sort of mechanism planned that is either pre-scheduled for flow closures to do custom behavior or to ad hoc turn on custom behavior as needed. Also consider you may not have direct access to make changes to the phone system during some types of outages. Maybe it's a cloud outage. You can't log in to make those changes. We can pre-plan for what happens in that kind of scenario. Consider your reporting needs when planning out a flow. What metrics are important to supervisors? Is it just the standard wait time, average speed of answer, or do we need to know how many people chose option 1 versus option 5? How do you want to be able to search for interactions on your platform? Searching for historical calls. Does it need to be done by some custom thing other than the caller's phone number or the number they dialed? Try to keep your documentation up to date. I know that's hard. Changes happen naturally over time. Documenting those changes, though, and the details surrounding what was done can help new team members or just other team members understand the history of a flow as the business grows. Then build with the future in mind. Designate a standard naming convention for components in the platform that all the teams understand. And then determine a set of standard features that all of your call flows are going to have. Maybe every single flow is going to have a holiday check, it's going to have a closure check, callbacks in queue, and consistent text-to-speech engines, so the voice of the company. Then don't create an endless maze of menus. Consider only allowing callers to repeat a menu or go back a menu a number of times. Callers who are struggling through a menu, it might be due to reasons that are beyond their control. Heavily suggested to either repeat menus a couple times and then play a message and hang up, or get them to an agent after a certain number of failures. Don't leave dead ends. If your menu is offering information instead of routing to a queue, repeat it and then go back to a menu, but don't just drop the call on the caller. Don't rush through testing. Make sure changes are tested before implementing them in a production call flow. This is post go live of a new flow. And then finally, don't hesitate to ask questions, especially during an implementation. That is what we're here for. There are no bad questions. We are here to help. We want you to feel comfortable. We want you to feel happy with your phone platform. That's my spiel.
Excellent, Chelsea. Great timing there. I do not see any questions in the Q&A, but if you've got any, please feel free to chime them in there. And while we're waiting for those to come in, I'll wrap up by just saying, if you've got a question, but you feel like it's more specific to your unique situation and would like, to chat with Inflow one-on-one about how we can help you out with any of this, please feel free to get in touch. Our contact info is on the screen there. You can email us at contact@inflowcx.com. You can call us at 844-446-3569. And if you're not ready for a conversation, totally fine. Just feel free to follow us on YouTube, LinkedIn, podcasts, Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. We always pumping out example or I should say educational content like this. Someone did ask if we've got example call flows we can view. I don't think we've got enough time to dig into that on this call. However, if that was you that asked it, please do feel free to contact us and get in touch with us. We certainly could walk you through, some example call flows that, we've either done in the past or, philosophically how we'd go about doing them. With that being said, we're right at time here. So I do appreciate everyone's time and thank you so much, Chelsea. Very, very wonderful.
You're welcome.
Everyone else, have a great rest of your day and week.